a theater artist with experience in every level, from janitor to artistic director on over 300 productions at theaters and schools across the country. He has staged fights for the Oregon and Utah Shakespearean festivals, among others, and has taught stage combat and movement at universities, high schools, and youth theaters, including 24 years at the University of California, Irvine. Since 1976, he has worked in theater, opera, ballet, film, and frequently running his own theater companies and sword fighting performance troupes, from the Crystal Egg in Ashland, Oregon to the Pennsylvania Renaissance Fair. Since some unfortunate accidents and injuries, he is now working on his old art skills, painting, sculpting, graphic arts, and creating cigar box art and dioramas. A veteran of Clockwork Alchemy's early days, he taught LED saber and sword fighting for steampunk adventurers in the War Room, exhibited his art in the gallery, and was a vendor during his last year. I would be remiss if I were to omit his 10 poetry books, a dozen plays, his Etsy store, Capriquarisarts, I can't even say this, where his art can be found, and his vocal music for the personas, an instrument, the electric universe, on his Capriquarius, thank you, Tom, SoundCloud site. And he is going to be taking us on an adventure of his own making today, with one of his dioramas that he's been working very hard at creating for the last 6 months.
And so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you a kind of a best parts version of a diorama project that I'm working on. And unfortunately, I'm having something of a wind event today. And so I can't guarantee that everything will stay upright, including myself. But fortunately, one of the things I am a master of is duct tape. Okay, so something in every Steampunk Adventures toolkit should be something to tie everything together with when it all starts to fall apart.
It's, it has a light side and a dark side, and it holds the universe together.
Yes, it does. It does. Okay, plus a sense of humor. So I'm going to take you through this little adventure I have here. And my character in the steampunk universe was inspired by Tom's storyline about the steamship Kamehameha story and all that. So what I did was I created a character that would fit his timeline and also be able to design things for him that his character in the steampunk universe would need. And the character I came up with was Major Vostok, and he is the son of a Cossack general who fought against Napoleon. And he and his father have roamed the world. His father was a military advisor to many governments around the world, as my father was, actually. So I base a lot of Major Vostok on my own personal experiences. And what we have is one of the adventures of Major Vostok after the Pan-Pacific Alliance has been formed. All of the nations of the Pacific Rim together, all the communities, the islands, the countries, in defense of their indigenous rights versus the European colonialist empires, which were trying to take over everything at the time. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Major Vostok and anything like that. And this is the combination of two of my Major Vostok cigar box dioramas. The first was Major Vostok and the Dragon. The first was actually the Pirates of Dragon Island. And then we did the Major Vostok and the Dragon Hut. So I slammed those two storylines together to create this. And in a moment, I will turn my camera so we can get a better view of the diorama. And then I will start the story. And hopefully, I would like a 5-minute check before before 5 minutes is up. You know what I mean? Like a 10-minute check. And then a 5-minute check, if you would, please.
Before the end, you mean?
Yes. Okay, and that way I can I can wrap up the story if I have to, because I want to get to a certain point. Okay, here we are. I'm going to turn the camera.
Your Hamlet ending.
Pardon?
Have your Hamlet ending.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Everybody dies in my dioramas. Okay, here we are. And
we are sideways for some reason.
We are sideways. Okay, am I going to have to do it that way then?
I don't know, but we've lost your video. Hang on. No.
He needs to talk. He needs to talk. He needs to talk.
I need to talk. Okay, I'm talking.
Yeah, but your video is off. I don't know why. But let me see if I can. Oh, yeah, you go. You're back.
Okay,
on.
Is that right? Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
All right.
You're good.
Perfect.
All right, here we are. Then I'll have to do it this way. All right, here is the pirate camp, which is the beginning of our scene. And then we'll proceed through many dangers and trials to various places, ending up at the treasure location. Is always a treasure in my stuff. And this is our swamp. Here we have our ocean. Sharks will be busy soon. And here we go for the storyline. And I'm just winging this, so you get lost. Major Vostok is here in the blue with the white helmet. He is talking to Betsy, who he has discovered in a pirate camp. Evidently, she knows nothing about the pirates. And he and his friend Juan Solo, they know a lot about the pirates because as officers of the Pacifica scouts, they deal with these sky pirates frequently. All right. So she is waiting for her uncle, the Reverend Love, to come back from one of his adventures. Evidently, there are no people in this part of the island. Major Vostok and Juan have come in order to check out the rumors of entire villages being abandoned. And here we have Arabella Neville. And she is a friend of Betsy's. So they all communicate here and they discover that Arabella is a professional hunter and novelist. She writes many wonderful stories about exotic places and the animals you can kill when you go there. Yes, everybody's seen this. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
And here we have, if I can find him. Oh, yes. Here comes the Reverend Love. He has come back from his wanderings. And everybody, of course, wants to hear where he's been and what he's doing. He's kind of vague about things. All right. But he's hinting at some marvelous discovery that he is about to make. And he can't be disturbed right now. So he wants all these interlopers to leave. Of course, Major Vostok's job is to be a professional interloper. So he says, no, I'm here to do my business. When all of a sudden, who should show up but Ruby, the queen of the sky pirates, with her nefarious pirate horde, a bunch of low-life scum if there ever sailed the seven skies. All right. So they're all kind of wandering in here and falling over because they're dead drunk, most of them. They're pirates after all. What do you expect of them? And she has her personal bodyguard, Kwai Chang. He's watching over her at all times. And so they have this big argument about what the heck the Reverend and his cronies are doing in the sky pirate camp. They've come to see what is going on with their camp because no one has reported from the camp in several months, which is unlike them. So as they come in here, one of the pirates discovers wild boars attacking the vegetable garden. So he takes a shot at a couple. Unfortunately for him, pardon my cane, the mama and papa wild boar are there on the scene and they fell him onto the harvested crops, and they ravage him to death. That causes this pirate to flee through the rat-infested gardens, since no one has been attending them, and he stumbles upon a giant caterpillar, which rears up and touches him with its venomous little prickly hairs. In quite a bit of pain, he staggers back and, oh, is impaled upon the stakes in the garden that are there to protect. So you see, it's a tough life being a pirate, even when you think you know where you're going. All right. So then, are you following me so far?
Yes, indeed.
Okay. All right. So then they decide, well, I bet what you're here for is treasure, because that's what people like you are always looking. They forced the Reverend and his party to take them on a trip through the dangerous areas of the island to where she knows the Reverend has some idea where the treasure is. That's just how pirates think. But they leave behind Betsy and a couple of pirates as they go out because they don't want to take everybody into the dangerous parts. So as they're wandering along, we're going to speed up the action a little bit here. They come into an area in which they discover a cave. And like all good, curious people, they wander around and investigate the cave. When all of a sudden, out of the cave, jump two giant rats. The giant rats of Sumatra, the very ones. And they leap upon this pirate and they maul him to death in front of their eyes. So they flee. Whoops, they fall down while fleeing. That happens a lot in my adventures. And they come over to the other side where they find themselves surrounded by an outcropping of cobras. I don't want to leave anyone behind on the adventure. So let me take these folks along.
Christopher,
Yes.
you have quite a number of these figurines. How
Yes, I
long have
do.
you been collecting these?
Since 1976, I started with my first one. And most of this in the last 25 years, I guess, since 1996.
Yes.
There's quite a variety of makers, and I hand painted about 40 figures for this diorama. And I'll get to them in a moment. Yes,
May I ask another question?
yes.
The when did you get the giant rats of Sumatra?
At the Halloween store years
How
ago.
many years ago?
Yes, I did. So, okay. So anyway, meanwhile, back at the action, unbeknownst to our heroes, the leader of the colonial troops that are mercenaries hired by, pardon me, by the Imperial Arms Corporation, he has also discovered there's a treasure here. So he has decided that he is going to follow these people into the jungle and let them discover the treasure, at which point he will take it away from them. So hard on their heels as they traipse through the area, trying to avoid being bitten by cobras over here. They're being followed hard upon by a group of the colonial soldiers. Yes, here we are. Okay. And there's about a half a dozen of them. They're wandering around here. They're horrified, of course, to see the rat still mauling pirate. Okay, so here we have one of the pirates holding his ground here, and Kwai Chang also holding the ground so that the other members of the group can pass by the Cobra Rock and out into this strange area, which we will momentarily see. Okay. Let's see, yes. Ruby always likes to get a front seat, so I can't ever leave her behind. All right. So as they wind up over here, okay, they are starting to go by the Cobra Rock when all of a sudden the giant centipede that they did not see sunning itself on the seaside rock comes in and attacks the pirate and starts to devour him while the snake starts biting him. So he led a particularly vicious life, so he deserves it, so don't worry. Okay, so here we are, we have the pirates. They have discovered this strange pool, and they don't know what, but it seems magical, but all the trees around it are dead and twisted. Evil, something evil lives here near this pool. They don't know quite what it is. So while they're considering that, one of the pirates, the one who got lost, where did he go? Oh, there he is. This pirate got lost, so he's finally staggering in along the group, and he's horrified by that, but he's enchanted by the pool. So as he goes in to approach the pool, he's warned by the Reverend not to drink from the pool, but as he turns back to talk to the Reverend in response, the giant viper manages to reach out and strike him. And he falls backward into the pool, at which point his flesh begins to boil from the strange waters of the pool. Everybody starts to retreat in horror. Ruby comes over to speak with Kwai Chang, and they turn and look, and there in the forest is a deer, a beautiful deer. And behind the deer, a giant Komodo dragon. This one is unlike anything that they have seen on the other islands. This one is almost golden in color. And as they're looking there, the deer springs away, and the dragon, already in its pursuit, attacks Ruby. Kwai Chang leaps in front of her and engages the dragon, but he is mauled severely, and the dragon overwhelms him. Tearful, but that's the way a pirate life goes. Ruby turns around and discovers that one of the trees has fallen, that the Reverend and Dirk Dagger, Dirk, the nefarious Dirk, have left them and are wandering around. And they find themselves in front of the treasure cave. And there is the mate of the Komodo dragon that we saw earlier. Pardon me. Like I said, wind event. At this point, we return to Colonel Delamort, the leader of the colonial troops. He comes in, and so horrified by the rat ravaging, which is still happening because they're hungry rats, and he was a big guy. The colonial troops come in, and they're so focused on this horrible act that they don't see the cobras, who suddenly are within striking range. And one of the colonial troops goes down before they can recover their senses. And then they flee, hard upon the heels of our heroic company. All right. So there we are. They've discovered now that Dirk Dagger and the Reverend have left. So they pursue. Ruby leads the way. Vostok close behind. Arabella bringing up the third place, and Juan Solo the rear. At this point, Dirk entices the dragon out of the cave, and the dragon attacks the Reverend. And even though they usually just bite and then withdraw and allow the animal to die, this dragon is really angry. So he decides he's just going to eat him there. All right. At this point, what we haven't seen so far is that this set of pirates has taken Betsy, who has communicated secretly with Dirk Dagger, and they are now on a raft, which is at the place of the treasure, which Betsy knew all about in the first place. Pernicious wench. So here we have the Komodo Dragon eating the Reverend. Dirk Dagger boasting about how he's going to make away with all this treasure. The lookout pirate says, "Look out." And with good reason too, because this giant spider leaps as only giant spiders can really leap, and takes down the lookout and starts feasting on him right in the middle, in front of Betsy's eyes. How horrible. What is this? This is the treasure cave, and this is the wreck of the ship that was washed up here from the tidal wave of Mount Tambora in 1815. And Dirk knew this all along. The Reverend knew this all along. It seems like everybody except our intrepid heroes knew all this was happening. So, as the dragon carries the Reverend off slightly into the forest, as Dirk makes his way into the treasure cave and now finds himself on the raft heading downstream with Betsy and the treasure. It's a heavy wind event. So here we have Vostok, Ruby, Arabella, and Juan, faithful Juan. They're ready to dive in and discover that the treasure is already on its way down the river. And we see the crocodiles and all the dangers inherent on such a passage. But they, with only a slight falling in every once in a while, they make it down to the actual ship and climb on board the ship after having loaded all the treasure on. Why would they jump on ship otherwise? And now they intend to make their way to freedom and glorious wealth. Unfortunately, as they float along, their ship is caught on a tree branch, both by a rope and a long silver chain. Here comes Captain Delamort. There's a big showdown here at the treasure cave. And they decide to go into the swamp and get on the raft and intercept the treasure. Only problem is the crocodiles have another problem, have something to say about that. And here we see as the colonial troops make it into the river, everybody's having to fight their way through. Ruby manages to steal onto the raft and get safe for a moment. Here comes Juan holding up the rear. Arabella and her little friend. Did I introduce you to Nanuma? Nanuma is Arabella's friend. He goes with her everywhere. A strange shaking of the sky. The giant dragonfly is startled and flies off. All right, so as they're making their way down the river, suddenly the crocodiles attack and people start to go down. Oh no, there's Major Vostok. He's made it to the raft. Here comes Juan. Juan has also made it to the raft, but none of the soldiers. Oh my God, the horror, the plasticity. Oh, they're being eaten. Hold it, this guy escapes only to be enthralled in the raptures of a snake's embrace. Oh no, giant water snakes come out, try to climb up on the raft. They're fighting them off. It's horrible. Colonel Delamort seems to be doomed himself. They make it to the actual mouth of the ocean, and the snakes manage to slip off. They're almost safe. All of a sudden, the ship caught on the obstacle. It catches, it overturns, it goes into the water. There goes the treasure. Uh-oh, the lid flies open, and hopefully you can see the sparkling treasure inside. There we are. Are we still on? Yes. Okay, good. What happens to Bessie? Oh, we don't know. She goes over the side. But Dirk, oh no. He throws his friend to the sharks. They're being all over this guy. Dirk swims to freedom only to find two large sharks in his way. And they decide to have their way with Dirk Dagger. Over here, as the raft makes its way into the ocean, Colonel Delamort staggers up onto the rock overlooking the sea. And our heroes eventually make it back to the pirate camp safely. And yet many questions remain. Is there treasure left? Can somebody die for the treasure? When do we eat? Is there anything to drink? Things like this run through a Pacifica Scout's mind. You know, you have to eat at some point.
I have a question.
Yes.
I have a question. How many people have died by now?
Oh, only a dozen or so.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Let's see if I can count down there's the boars, the giant caterpillar and the snakes, the giant rats of Sumatra, the cobras, the centipede and the cobra. Komodo dragon got this one. Okay.
I told you
the
it was a
giant-
Hamlet ending.
Gibbon got that one.
Uh,
Okay. The crocodiles got these guys. You know, and the snake got this guy. They're still getting him. Okay.
Next year,
And-
Jill, we're going to have a kill count in the upper corner.
Okay. And here we have, for the last shot, the Reverend has already been eaten. You don't want to look at his body. Okay, so I don't know. I'm lost count. But, you know, they're all dead except the heroes. See,
Oh,
yeah.
the heroes lived, right? Didn't they? The good people. I mean, Ruby's got a good heart. You know, she didn't actually go out of her way to shoot anybody or anything. You know, she's just greedy. Just greedy a little bit, you know, and who isn't? And here we have the closing shot, which will eventually be a wraparound diorama all of its own, the night sky with the Komodo dragons up against the night sky.
Very nice. Very nice.
Okay.
Chris.
As I
Very
pull
nice.
back, I can't even begin to show you the totality unless I get way back, at which point you will see
Yeah.
my notebook, my
Good
cane,
dog.
my work table, the duct tape, which saves my show. You know, the you see this way lengthwise. This is a 80-inch long door, and each of the panels is 16 by 20, so it worked out perfectly.
Yeah.
When you see my wind event problems happening here.
so Christopher,
Yes,
when,
speak.
when you
Yeah,
do
but-
when you do your professional choreography,
Yes.
do you ever use your figures to map out the choreography for, say, I don't know,
All the time. All the
Okay.
time. Every time. If I have them, I do use them. I used to carry around. May I switch the camera back?
Please.
Okay. Here we go. All right. That worked it. No. Oh, there we go. Here we go. Yes.
Yes.
Well, when I began, I started using little pewter figures, the Dungeons and Dragons kind, Ralpartha, a lot of those.
Mhm.
And then and I would pack those into a little case and take them with me on gigs, flying to Oregon Shakespeare Festival, or, you know, wherever the heck I went. And I would then plot out the fight sequence according to the movement of masses on the table. And I would show the director kind of what I had in mind. And then he would get to play with my little figures and make changes. And from that point, I started collecting plastic soldiers. And then about 25 years ago, my good friend Blake Gould took me to a toy show and I bought my first bag of, real plastic figures in order to, start doing dioramas like this. I had used I had I worked with Blake Gould on 29 shows or something. It's an incredible amount, the most I've worked with anyone. And we did one Treasure Island, so I went out and bought a bucket of pirates. Literally, it said bucket of pirates, and a pirate mountain chest, mountain treasure mountain. That's what I have. And so I would use those little crude figures, for a long time. And I used some Britain's Knights. But this is these figures, Tom, you will recognize as having Tom provided the funds so I could buy these and start painting them years ago.
Woo!
About at least a decade ago.
And how long did
this
it
has
take
been a long
you-
time in the making.
How long did it take you to
put
paint
this
them at that detail?
Just in this detail, and this is really rough,
Yeah.
It passes for this type of photography, but it wouldn't pass an up close, like I'm a collector of painted figures, it's like, get it, you're not going to buy my stuff. But, for what I'm doing, it allows me to have a little more. But I painted, each one takes at least an hour.
Okay.
Some of
And
them
how
take,
many did you
take
paint?
longer.
How many did you paint?
I would say I have 100 hours in painting figures,
There you go.
just in painting figures.
So the
know,
other students
and,
of your class have questions.
Blackboard.
The other students have the question of,
Yes.
Did the folk get food?
They get to eat.
Did the survivors
yeah.
get to eat?
Check it out. Who's on the fire? Oh, I didn't. I need to reverse this. So let me show you what I mean here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, there's
Yes. See food on the table. Okay. Rum. Here's the hand of destiny. Here's more food over there.
Oh, look
Okay.
at that.
Lots of food. Grapes and fruit growing on the mountain. Okay. Plus, there's a vegetable garden if you want to hazard the rats and the boars.
Right. Right. Now,
And the
for the very first,
caterpillar, coconuts, you could go, there's,
oh,
say what?
I like that, Phil.
Did you
Phil.
lose
Phil
me?
says that one of the heroes kills a boar and does a barbecue.
roasted over to pit.
Well, I mean, the boar's dead. You're not going to bring the boar back to life. You know what I mean? So even these three boars are now just hanging out in the forest, they're hanging out in the garden some more,
Okay.
Those boars are dead. So they're now, feastable.
So several people in this class have painted figures.
Yes.
Meister John Sullins has painted many a miniature, and
Oh, hello, John.
our lead, David, has painted many things for me. The very first thing I asked him to paint for me was a steampunk Nerf gun. And David, will you please share how long it took you to do that first draft of the steampunk gun?
It was about 8 hours to paint the Nerf gun.
8 hours for one prop, guys.
Yeah.
Look at all the things that Christopher Villa has painted for you to be able to tell this story. Christopher, how many drives did we take together and you would tell me the stories of these without the props?
All of them,
All of
every
them.
single drive. Every single drive since 1979.
And it was not a Tom and Chris adventure unless we had.
Unless we got lost.
That's
Because
right.
it's not an adventure unless you get lost. All right.
And how
these
many
guys right here, this is the only set piece I painted. All the others came pre-painted, but that's the only one I painted. But yeah, we had a lot of drives, and Tom and I would talk about a lot of subjects, and this came out of a lot of those talks. This is this has taken me several months because I haven't been in good health. So, and it's been difficult to get up and a couple of hours at a day or every other day or every 3 or twice a week, something. And slowly but surely, plus everything you see here has been destroyed at some point due to the winds. We have very strong winds at dusk here because of the thermal changes being so close to the ocean. And all these trees have fallen down. I had to build bases for all the things that fell down. And this blessed palm here, of which I speak, I cannot get it to stand up straight because it got bent once. And it has forever remembered I am bent. It's like a childhood trauma for plastic plants or something. Oh, you bent me. I'm never the same again. You know,
Sort of like you.
so that's like me, exactly like me, because this is how I spent my youth, was building these old dioramas and playing with my toy soldiers. And this, since nobody wants me, the university kicked me out. You know, my body won't let me work. This is what I'm reduced to keep my active mad scientist brain going. You know,
and how many months ago did I ask you to start on this?
I have no idea. It was last year, wasn't it?
Jill?
Yeah.
When did we start brainstorming?
It was last year sometime. Yeah.
Yeah. And
so
I had a bad injury at
we're at
Christmas,
10 minutes.
so that really helped me back. You know.
Yeah, we're about 8 minutes out, 10 minutes out, something like that.
Okay, good. Oh, we have plenty of time. I was afraid I wouldn't get through it. See, there's many details. One of the things I discovered about this diorama is that I couldn't get back farther than right here. This is as far as I can reach without pain in the parts that hurt. So I can't overbalance myself. So what I had to do was walk around. Oh, I got to show you this. This is what the back looks like. This was why were we starting 9 minutes late is because, as you can see, there's debris and my wind block panels all fell down and part of my swamp is lying here on the ground. You know, so anybody want to come and help me set up or take down anything, you know, is welcome. Because it hurts. It hurts to put something up like this. It takes hours. I've been up till like 3 a.m. or something most of the nights the last couple of weeks trying to get everything done. And this is not what I intended at all. I had intended to do a photo montage, which we could play as a straight, like sort of video. And I even had in mind that I would do a soundtrack. And let's shoot down plans A through T. Now we're on U, plan U. Okay, plan U. You better do something quick.
Bill Rook, please hear what Christopher said. And
I'm hearing.
It would be fun to do a stop animation video for you, Christopher.
Oh yeah. I'm going to leave this up actually, as long as I can. And so if somebody wants to help me do something, but bringing this all back to choreography, I worked out intricate patterns with my little soldiers. I would build miniature stages, not very complex, but just like the floor plans on, hard paper and things like that. And I spent many hours kind of figuring out those backstage movements too, not just what was happening on stage, but also backstage. So that when I got to wherever I was going, I knew I was going to have no time to do a lot of work and get it really good, really fast. So my motto became, I will do what I can with what I have in the space of time you allow me with the resources you give me. And those 4 things I can promise. I'll do the best I can, but you have to also realize that when you're in production, that when you're one person doing everything, you can't do everything, so you need to work with other people. You need a team. All stage combat is based on teamwork. Nobody gets out there except one play in like 1 or less than 5 plays, and out of the 300 I've done, have actually had someone fight all by themselves on stage, whether it was with imaginary folks or an invisible opponent. William Cole, I'm looking at you. And so it helps me to get prepared mentally for when I walk into a tough situation where I know I'm not going to have the time to do what I need to do. And that way, my brain is already working along the lines of positions, of pictures, of movement, of flow backstage, flow on stage, characterization. Put these two guys together, like this guy and Colonel Delamort. These are enemies, mortal enemies, right? And someday these guys will have it out. But we have dozens of adventures for them before that happens. You know, and this is only one of about a dozen adventures that I already have sketched out. And next year, I hope to be able to have something like Major Vostok in the Cavern of Blood, where he finds the rubies that allow him to make the ruby lasers that are the difference in the Pan-Pacific War of between the United States, European nations, and Pacifica.
So Christopher,
And I may mention, trying to tie all of this back into a steampunk vein, my character, Major Vostok, and his father were entertained by Captain Nemo in India. And then Vostok went off on one of, the general went off on one of his adventures and left Vostok with Nemo. And when the British captured Nemo, they captured Vostok. Vostok and Nemo went to Rawalpindi together. And when they escaped, Vostok helped work on the Nautilus and was on the Nautilus until shortly before Aronnax and his people. It was, I think, I can't remember, but about early 1863 is when Vostok was off of the Nautilus, because that's when he gets promoted twice on the field after saber dueling George Custer. And that's another story.
so
Chris,
Christopher,
we have two
Yes.
more questions. John Sullen wanted to know, what is your process of dealing with directors who have very different ideas for a fight than what you dreamed up? And then I have a question.
Because Paddy Crane, who did the Vikings and Master Ballantrae, and I worked as his assistant for a week at my second stage combat workshop in '81. He said to us, you should always do what the director tells you to do. And if I have time, I'll tell you why. But I have most of the time done what the director wanted me to do. And then said, like Tom says, in an improv, you say, and yes, I can do this too. And so you're adding on. But every once in a while, when I have stood up and said, you know, this is what I think really needs to happen here, boom, you're out of here. You're fired. They don't even bother to tell you you're not hired back. So you should always do what the director wants you to do, because it's his show. If you want to do what you want to do, then you should direct and produce your own shows. You know, right? That's why I produced and directed my own shows.
Excellent advice.
Huh? But the director is God, because Paddy Crane was working on the original Hamlet fight for Olivier. And he had this great fight. They show it for Olivier. Olivier says, that's great, but can we change these things, this and that? And Paddy Crane says, no, we can't change anything. I like the fight the way it is. Well, they had been sending a limo for him every day to go to the studio, Olivier's personal limo. When one day, you know, that next day, as a matter of fact, the limo did not come. And they called him and said, at least they had the good graces to call him and say, thank you, but we're going in a different direction. And you hate two things for them to say to you. You hate, we're going in-house, which means we're going to get someone you train to do it for less, or we're going in a different direction, which means we don't know what the heck is, so we don't. It distilled from 45 years of stage combat. You know, that's the truth of it, unfortunately.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yes. How are we doing on time?
We're doing good. We've just got about 3 or 4 minutes, but I had a real quick question. I remember
Yes.
classes at Combat Con a number of years ago. In fact, all our first Combat Cons, I think, when you do games with your potential actors for a show to determine skill levels. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. Well, the first thing is, as a teacher, I realized that by using, I was getting very hard to do warm-ups, getting people doing warm-ups, especially if they'd had warm-ups that day. So I decided that instead I would play games with them, because games engage them physically, emotionally, energetically, immediately. And you can tell who in the group is willing to cooperate, who can take instructions, and who has a sense of play about them, who wants to be part of the community, who wants to support, who wants to be an ensemble player, you know, and who just needs that awakened in them. And I had a workshop with Viola Spolin, who did theater games, and this was at UCLA some years ago. And she singled me out during the workshop as having a particular energy and commitment to the games. I thought, well, I'm just going to play games. So I played a lot of new games. I went to new games workshops. I studied juggling, clowning, but it always came back to games. Starting games that people think they've forgotten or never learned, very instrumental in developing hand-eye coordination, mental agility, and just that unique ability to feel another person's energy, you know, and to exchange that energy with them in a, as they say in new games, Stuart Brand's new games, they would say, play hard, play fair, and nobody gets hurt, you know. And so, and me, I've always been a runt, you know, and I didn't really develop till I was well into high school. And I have always looked for the person who could not do something, who was emotionally, physically, something was holding them back. They couldn't do what we wanted them to do. And I made it my business to make sure that that person got extra attention, so that I took the time to teach the weakest member of my unit as much as I did the strongest. And I depended on my strongest members, my to be my assistants, and to take it upon themselves to go out and do the exact same thing. Because a lot of the fight masters I worked with didn't have that attitude. They send me off to work with the lowest common denominator, always, you know. And I said, well, you know, at some point I'm going to have to engage with that person. And so that's what teaching did for me, was make me engage with the lowest common denominator of skill level and mental facility in the group, you know. And besides, it raises them up. And when you raise one up, everybody gets up, you know. We're all champions when one person achieves victory.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you very much. We are out of time. And
Oh, great. Well, I hope you enjoyed
the
it.
recording. We did.
I hope you